Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Steve Helwagen. Oh, man, we're going to do a deep dive on the defense, my friends. We're going to look at our projected depth chart, at least the starters, for this coming season for the Buckeyes, the 2025 season. They'll only have 3 returning starters on defense. Pretty good 3 returning starters with Caleb Downs, IGB, and Sonny Styles. But I can't remember the last time Ohio State was breaking in this many new starters on defense, and they'll have a new defensive coordinator. So we're going to get into all that stuff. And in fact, Steve, I'm going to start right with because I've talked about the Knowles stuff a lot. I haven't heard your take on it. When that went down, when it became official that he's going to Penn State, what was your reaction?
I guess I was kind of surprised. I think most people think of that as kind of a lateral move when you talk about going from Ohio State to Penn State, and forget the fact, that Ohio State's beaten them, 7, 8 years in a row. And what is it? Franklin's 1-10, I guess, against Ohio State. You'd say it's really not a lateral move, but Penn State was in the college football playoff Final Four, the first ever Final Four. So give them a little bit of credit. For that. Now, who did they have to beat to get there? SMU and Boise State. Apparently, Ball State wasn't available. But, I think it's one of Ohio State's top Big Ten rivals, a team, a school, a program that Ohio State recruits against. And, yes, Jim Knowles is from Philadelphia, and I saw the paraphrasing on whatever it was. He gave his initial Jim Knowles' address to the Penn State players about, Penn State was what everybody aspired to in Philadelphia or whatever. So, he's having his little come home moment. I think it was 2 things. One, allegedly Penn State offered him more money than Ohio State did coming off of a national championship season, which is kind of interesting that somebody outbid Ohio State coming off of a national championship season. Now, that, of course, comes on the heels of the report that Ohio State lost $37 million in the last fiscal year. And, some of that was due because the previous year they only had 6 football home games. And, this year they had 8, or actually 9 counting the playoffs. So the books will look a little bit better this year. So maybe they didn't want to go with salary increases after all that news. But the other thing was, it seemed like Knowles' nose was out of joint a little bit because Ryan Day may have gotten into him a little bit after the Oregon loss, and rightfully so. I've said this. I said this yesterday on your friend Bobby Carpenter's radio show. If somebody could point in the book and show me where it made sense to, on 3rd and 15, to drop the 4 defensive linemen into coverage and flood the underneath zone, blitz 2 linebackers against a 5-man offensive line, give Dylan Gabriel Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to throw the football, and hang Denzel Burke out to dry on that deep pass.
Man press.
Everybody vilified Burke, and it was the bullshit scheme that Jim Knowles had in that game. So Ryan Day was seeing his national championship team go by the wayside, and he wasn't going to let it happen. So he got into Jim Knowles a little bit in that open week, and lo and behold, guess what? Sometimes you need a little market correction. Need a little coercion to get it fixed. And guess what? The defense played 10 times better the rest of the season. And don't tell me about the pain. Show me the baby. That's kind of where I'm at on that, because if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. And it wasn't enough for him to try and come back to Ohio State and help the people that he cares about. The players that he allegedly loved and everything else. I understand it. If he feels it was abusive, so be it. But the end justified the means in that case.
That's right. And, again, he's going back to his home state. He says he grew up a Penn State fan. Makes a lot of sense. He grew up in Philly. Even though we didn't know that when he was here, I always wondered if he, at the very least, if you grew up in Philly and you're a big sports fan, you play sports, you play football like he did, you're at least going to you would at least follow the Penn State program closely. It'd be like growing up in Cleveland and you're a huge sports fan. You're a huge football guy. You play football. You're probably going to be a Buckeye fan growing up in Cleveland. At the very least, you're going to know a lot about Ohio State's program and you're going to follow it closely. So, hey, man, he did what he was brought here to do. And we'll get to possible replacements for him. But I'm going to do a little deep dive on the depth charts. Interesting, man. Obviously, we got the 3 returning starters with Downs, IGB, and Sonny Styles. Let's start with the D-line. Whole new starting D-line. But a lot of these guys played like a lot of snaps this year, so it's not going to be – I'm more concerned about the depth behind them than the starters. Tell me if you think this is about right. Pretty obvious at defensive end. You're going to have Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson as the starters. And then at D tackle, Steve, Caden McDonald and Edric Houston are your starters. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. Now, Edric Houston, it says here he's listed at 6'3", 270, but I think he played a little bit bigger than that. I bet he's probably closer to 285, I would think right now. I was kind of surprised Hero Canoe went into the transfer portal. He's got 2 more years of eligibility left, I guess, and didn't want to fight and compete for a spot, apparently, is what it seems like to me. But, oh well, if that's how he's feeling it. You go through, I'm looking at in the notes they give us, they actually, for the first time ever this year, did a really nice job of itemizing this thing by position group. So I can tell you who's left and who isn't. Josh Mickens is back at defensive end. Will Smith Jr. is back at defensive tackle. Dominic Kirks is at defensive end. Scrolling down here, Eric Mensah, defensive tackle. What's
right.
that?
Yeah, I was going to say Mensah. They're going to have to get somebody in the portal, I think, as a D tackle with Canoe.
Jason Moore. Jason Moore is kind of intriguing.
Yep.
And Taiwan Malone would have 1 more year left if he comes back as well. So you got a few bodies there. I don't have the freshmen written down here, and I don't think it's probably – they're probably not counting on any of the incoming freshmen being right there in the 2 deep to start out. But you've got some bodies. I agree. You could use a impact defensive tackle, no question about it. I think Caden McDonald is going to be the next stud at defensive tackle.
Heck yeah. Him and Houston are going to make a nice tandem in there, man. And I agree with what some of the commenters are saying. I said this earlier. Depth is the concern on defensive line. But, man, I like these starters. McDonald and Houston next year, I'm here for it. Now, and I'm also glad my guy's coming back for another year, Do you see that? Do you see Jack Sawyer's coming back? You see like this shirt?
Oh, yeah. He said that on Sunday.
Year. I love that he did that. Him and Will Howard were joking about that after the game, too. And it's like, for those that don't know, Sawyer couldn't come back even if he wanted to. He wasn't here for the COVID year, so he never redshirt. He played his 4 year. He's just I just love Jack Sawyer. I mean, he just was such the leader of leaders on a heck of a great team. I mean, A+ young men and they're national champs.
This is one question awesome. I got.
Yeah.
I got Keegan Curry, 2.5 sacks, Kenyatta Jackson, 1.5. If they're going to be, impact players, they're going to have to step that up. The top returning guy with sacks is Sonny Styles, the linebacker, with 6. So they're going to need improved production, I think, out of those 2 guys going forward. But they're football players. We've seen it. They make plays. They make great plays at times. And Kid Curry did have a sack late in the Rose Bowl when the feeding frenzy was on. Poor Dylan Gabriel. I think they just sacked him again. I think the number 1 team in America, 41-21, was that the final score?
And that doesn't even do it justice because it was 34-0 before Oregon even knew it hit him. It was just like a complete 180 from how they treated Gabriel the first game. Like Gabriel was just as comfortable as can be, didn't have any grass stains at all the first game. And the second game, he was seeing ghosts like midway through the first quarter. Like they were just all over him. It was hilarious.
This is interesting. Our friend Ralph Russo used to work for the Associated Press. He's with the Athletic now. I'm like looking for him at the Rose Bowl when it's 34-0. I'm like, what's the most lopsided score a number 1 team has ever lost by is what I started looking at. Of course, we know Ohio State was one of those in the 2007 championship game, 41-14. It was a 27-point loss that Florida put on them. And I finally did track down Ralph at the championship game, and he told me in the 50s there was a game, I think, between Boston College and Holy Cross that has the record, I guess, for the worst loss by a number one ranked team. So I have to look that up sometime, and we'll have to file that away because the next time Ohio State gets a hold of number one, it could be in peril.
Yeah, people are asking about C.J. Hicks. Yeah, I think C.J. Hicks, I mean, hopefully he sticks around. I think he will. And, I mean, I know he could enter the next time the portal is open. I think C.J. Hicks is going to stick around, and the new defensive coordinator can decide, and I'm sure the current staff is going to have a lot of input on this. C.J. Hicks coming back and being defensive end makes a lot of sense. Speaking of linebacker, he could play linebacker. Speaking of linebackers, though, obviously Sonny Styles is coming back. No surprise there. I think it's really cool that Sonny, Steve, and Low Styles Jr. are going to go out together as seniors, even though they're 2 years apart in age, because Sonny reclassified, of course, and then Lorenzo Jr. redshirted, so they're going to go out as seniors together. Arvell Reese, man. Arvell Reese. I expect big things out of him. He's got huge shoes to fill. Cody Simon, I saw a mock draft. You know, you got to take these mock drafts with a grain of salt, but I hadn't seen Cody Simon listed as a second-round pick anywhere until I did. The other day, the Athletic put out a mock draft. They had Cody Simon as a second-round pick, right behind Jack Sawyer.
Great year.
He had a fantastic year. So Arvell Reese has big shoes to fill, but Arvell Reese played a lot this year, and I think he's going to be a stud, man. He is big, fast, athletic, tough, and he's going to step in for Cody Simon and be that starting Mike.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've got a story coming up in the next week or so, probably on Arvell Reese and what he's thinking about kind of going into 2025, and really enjoyed the chance. I talked to him at both the Rose Bowl and the national championship game a little bit about, where he kind of fits into the hierarchy there. They have some linebackers. I think they've got 6 scholarship linebackers coming back, including Hicks, who I would agree they're going to have to make a decision. Does he help energize the pass rush at defensive end, or does he stay, at linebacker and provide depth? I mean, he could be – they did run 3 linebackers about, 5-10% of the time this past year. Of course, now you have an entirely new coordinator come in. You think they'll probably stick with the 4-2-5, particularly if it's Matt Guerrieri and or Tim Walton, who end up, kind of as continuity's sake, getting that job. So, but yeah, Arvell Reese is the future, no doubt. Sonny Styles, contract year for him. He wants to be the Block O, perhaps, and I think that that makes sense. Of all the seniors coming back, he may be the guy for that.
I love it. Devin Sanchez says, I can't even pronounce Sanchez right now. Devin Sanchez's mom, Deetra, who is a loyal listener of the show. We really appreciate that, Deetra. She's saying, Sonny Styles, she thinks should be the Block O next year. I'm like, well, that's a good idea. And then she said, basically full disclosure, she just wants the number 6 for Devin. I love it. I think we can make that happen. I think we can make that happen, Mrs. Sanchez. I think we can make that happen. Devin wearing that number 6, and then we got Sonny wearing the Block O to take over for Cody wearing the block. Makes a lot of sense, especially with Sonny and Lorenzo's father being a former great Buckeye himself. He was a second-round pick, I believe. Does that sound right? Was Lorenzo Styles a second-round pick by the Falcons? He left early. I remember sitting in my dorm room, and it wasn't odd. Yeah, I remember sitting in my dorm room at Morrill Tower. This is actually a funny story. You guys will like this. Hopefully some of my suite mates are watching this. They occasionally do. It's funny that we all keep in touch still. It's amazing. None of us knew each other. I didn't know any of those guys when I moved to Morrill Tower. So here's a funny story. So it's it would have been the 94 season, I believe. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and news came down that Lorenzo Styles was turning pro. And I think I threw something against the wall. I was just pissed off. I mean, I understood. I just knew that was a big loss because Lorenzo Styles is really good. And so guess who lived right next door to us? I think I've told you this story. Orlando Pace and John Lumpkin. So one of my roommates, unbeknownst to me, goes over there and says, hey, Biddle's over here saying you guys are going to suck next year, which I never said that. So then you get Orlando Pace and John Lumpkin come in there acting like they're going to beat me up, which my roommates thought that was hilarious because it was. And then they started laughing. So yeah, I almost got killed by Orlando Pace and John Lumpkin, who actually were very, very nice guys. But there you go.
That's funny.
I remember where I was when Lorenzo Styles turned pro, and I was pissed. So, but then I wasn't pissed. I understood because he was real. I knew he was really, really freaking good. Yeah.
At Buckeye Sports Bulletin, early 90s, when he was recruited, you know how they always did those one-page stories on all the recruits. I did his story in like 90 or 91, whatever year he signed at Ohio State. I did his story in Buckeye Sports Bulletin. That's how far back I go with Lorenzo, and he always says hello whenever I see him. But yeah, he was a great Ohio State player, and his sons are stacking up just the same. So I like where things are headed.
Quick ad read, then we're going to do a deep dive on the defensive backs. Is Devin Sanchez going to come right in here and win the Thorpe Award as a true freshman? I'm kidding. He's going to have to work his way up, just like LeBron. You know, LeBron and Devin Sanchez, all these stars, they have to work their way up. I love what Ryan Day said on. Ryan Day knocked it out of the park on the Tonight Show. Man, he was just so calm. Almost looks like a guy that has like the weight of the world off his shoulders, Steve, winning the national
Amazing, isn't it?
Cracking jokes. Jimmy Fallon seriously couldn't lift the trophy because it's a freaking heavy trophy. He seriously couldn't lift it. And Day goes, you got to get in the weight room. He was just on point, man. He was just so funny. The whole thing about the golf cart and everything, I feel so good for Ryan Day. So we're going to get into that. But I love what he said about LeBron. You know, LeBron's going to have to, you know, like any other freshman, he's going to be in the back of the room, have to work his way up. Devin's going to play right away. But with IGB and Matthews, those are probably going to be your starters. I just cheated there, Steve, and gave away my start. We'll do more about these, but I have a quick ad read for you guys. And apparently you guys really like this product because my ad rep is telling me you guys are buying it with the code Bucknuts. We appreciate that. We like that you support our sponsors. It's a really cool company. In 2024, it was reported that more people now use THC than drink daily. More people are rethinking their relationship with alcohol, looking to drink less, but still have fun. Cornbread's organic THC gummies offer a better way to hang out, celebrate, or relax without the hangover. These are America's only USDH organic THC gummies. Real THC, no synthetics, 100% legal hemp, fast and free shipping. All good stuff. Alcohol does not have to be the default anymore, whether you're doing dry January or just looking for a healthier way to relax and have a guilt-free good time. You've got to try Cornbread's THC gummies. Right now, Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts at checkout. Again, 30% off. cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts at checkout for 30% off. There we go. All right, DBs. All right, they have a pretty good safety coming back. That helps the cause. IGB coming back is big too. Jermaine Matthews basically played like starter snaps in the postseason and maybe throughout the year, really. He's going to be entering his junior year. And then my question for you. So I think there's no doubt those are going to be 3 starters. So then who's going to be the slot? I think probably I would put Lorenzo Styles Jr. in there in the slot. And then safety opposite downs, either Jalen McClain, who I have penciled in as the starter, but Malik Hartford, hit stick Hartford is going to be in the mix too. So who do you like at slot, and who do you like as the other starting safety opposite downs?
Yeah, I like where you're going there with Lorenzo Styles Jr. He did play quite a bit as the season wore on and was even out there somewhat in the playoff as well. So, yeah, I like Igbinosun, Styles, and Matthews as the corners with Aaron Scott. Let's just see. Bryce West, I know, is in that group. Devin Sanchez, as an incoming freshman, will have a chance to earn a spot in 2 deep this spring. Miles Lockhart is also there. So you got 6 or 7 guys there, and you got decent enough depth to make that work. I think that'll be okay. And over at safety, I obviously Downs, All-American. And then I would agree it's between Hartford or McClain, I think, to start. They brought in Keenan Nelson Jr. as a transfer. He really didn't play a whole lot. And Leroy Roker was a true freshman this past year as well. He didn't play. Fahim Delane, if I'm pronouncing that correct, is a big-time safety prospect coming in, one of the top recruits in this class, and he may have a chance to win a spot in the 2 deep as well. So 2 other guys, Deshaun Stewart and Cody Haddad, also in this recruiting class as well, but I think they're down the line guys. So, yeah, I would look at it that you got just enough depth to get through, but I think maybe a portal addition or 2 wouldn't hurt the secondary as well.
I really like the depth at corner. I mean, assuming the starters are who we think they will be with IGB and Jermaine Matthews, I think that's pretty clear unless something crazy happens. But I think Aaron Scott is going to play a lot as a sophomore. He looked good to me as a true freshman. A little bigger than I thought. Not surprising that he's tough. I mean, he took Springfield to 3 straight D1 state championship games as a quarterback and DB. Like, Springfield had never been to a state championship game. He took him to 3 straight and ran into some buzzsaws. But still, I mean, Aaron Scott, bigger than I thought. He's tough. Devin Sanchez, I literally ran into him, as I've told on this show. Like, we didn't run into each other. We almost did. Bumped into each other coming into the WAC. I'm like, who is that? I was starting to think, I know who that is. I thought it was like an upperclassman. No, it's a kid that should still be a senior in high school. I have no doubt he's not going to redshirt. You got Bryce West, who at Lockhart. What's that?
Yep. West is definitely in the mix.
Yep. But those are probably the top backups. I think Aaron Scott and maybe Sanchez are probably the top backups, you think?
Yeah, right there. And I think that, as you said, I think you've got a hole 2 deep at all 3 spots. So I think you got to be happy about the depth, as you said, at corner. A little concerned. I mean, I only see 5 returning safeties here, but since just the way it's shaken out here. But obviously Calvin Simpson Hunt went into the transfer portal at corner. And, that kind of, lessens things a little bit. There was a lot of hope for him, but it maybe just wasn't going to pan out with him at Ohio State. So, he's off to, I'm not sure exactly where he is headed, but So, as I said, maybe a transfer portal safety. If we like the corner depth, maybe a transfer portal safety would help.
Yeah. Like what they did with Keenan Nelson Jr. last year, like a guy that maybe could an improvement on that. Not a guy that's going to come in and start, but a guy that could, play on special teams a lot and add some depth there at safety. I agree. Yeah, people have asked about depth. We got into that a little bit on the D-line. We'll do this, and then I'm going to get Steve's thoughts on who might be the new DC. There's a lot of possibilities we're hearing. But yeah, I mean, the depth is definitely the one to keep an eye on when it comes to the defensive line. I think the starters are really good. Logan George is the transfer from Idaho State. I think he's going to be the top backup defensive end behind Caden Curry and Jackson. So that was good. They already got a kid from Idaho State, 6'5", 260. All Big Sky Conference. So that was a good get, especially when you get a guy that's coming here knowing, probably he's not going to start ahead of Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, but he's still going to play a lot. So that's going to be a top backup there. We'll see about CJ Hicks, guys like that. Steve went through a bunch of defensive tackles. I almost forgot about Jason Moore, Will Smith. Hopefully some of those guys like Will Smith Jr., Eric Mensa come of age this year, especially with Hero Canoe moving on. But that's something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't mind seeing them go after a D tackle just for depth to replace kind of what Canoe, they're losing with Canoe going to Texas. All right.
Yeah, they have a couple of young freshmen too, Zion Grady and Epi Satanale, who did they get him away from UCLA? Does that sound right?
Sounds right. Yeah. Both big boys too, right?
Yeah. But, what was it? Bad Boys, Bad Boys, man, or whatever.
Oh, that was great. Terrell Pryor's because we don't even say the guy's name. There was a reporter, a little kind of on the nerdy side, was kind of like asking Terrell Pryor's what do you think about the receivers this year? He goes, and Terrell Pryor was like, we got some bad boys, man. And the reporter's like, bad what? And TP's like, boys, man. So Steve and I, being sophomore, did that for about 2 years straight. We got some bad boys, man. Bad what? Boys, man.
Boys, man.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Boys, man.
Two other guys, linebacker as well, that could shake things up. Riley Pettyjohn, a big timer out of Texas, is in this class, and Tarvos Alford as well. So keep an eye out for those guys. Alford from Vero Beach, Florida. So they've recruited really well here on defense, Dave. I mean, they got some guys coming in.
They did.
I agree. A transfer portal defensive tackle and a transfer portal safety would probably hit really good with this group.
My niece, my sister's daughter, my brother-in-law is a huge Ohio State fan, so his daughter, Jeff, My niece Nora got a full ride scholarship to Valpo for golf. She's a huge Ohio State fan, so they went over to celebrate. I know it's awesome that she's getting a full ride D1 scholarship. It's fantastic. Then she's a huge Buckeye fan, so she went over to her and my brother-in-law went over to the celebration on Sunday, and they ran into Tarvis Alford and Pettijohn. I believe that's this. Definitely was Tarvis Alford. I think, is Pettijohn already enrolled? I think those are the two.
I believe so.
My brother-in-law sent me a pic of my niece decked out in her Ohio State gear with the two national champ. Well, they got to be on the ride. So that was really cool that she got a picture taken with those two future stars, hopefully, at Ohio State. It's really cool that those early enrollees got to come in and, experience a little national championship run. Yeah, they couldn't play, but my God, that must have been fun. Come in, join Ohio State and just go on this magical ride as they win the national championship. All right, final thing, Stephen. All right, new defensive coordinator. I said Jim Leonard was at the top of my list. It was like an hour after that it was reported he's staying with the Broncos. But hey, Nick Saban said about the day before he became Alabama's coach, I am not going to be Alabama's coach. So I take everything with the grain when I hear stuff like that. So I don't know. Jim Leonard is a possibility. There's a possibility they could go with Guerreri and Walton as co-coordinators. I don't think you can promote Guerreri over OG Walt without pissing OG Walt off. So I don't know if that's a possibility. I know they love Guerreri, and I can see why. I've heard nothing but great things about him too. You got to keep OG Walt. I'm kind of hoping they bring in like a Leonard and then make Guerreri and Walton co-coordinators. I don't know how the titles will work out. What do you think? What are some things you're hearing? What do you think might happen here?
Yeah, I think going to be no shortage of people applying for the job since it pays over $2 million a year. And, not many guys are making that as an assistant coach right now in college football. But Jim Leonard would have been maybe a perfect pick, if they could have gotten him. I saw your list. Jeff Hafley was on there, but, he's with Green Bay, so that's unlikely. Bryant Haynes, who worked at Indiana this past year, was a good name, I think. Works with Kurt Signetti. Mike Tressel is a possibility, nephew of Jim Tressel. And Jim Tressel has been around the program quite a bit. So I don't want to say that he'd be a fallback candidate, but he's working with Luke Fickell up at Wisconsin. Joe Rossi at Michigan State is another one. I'm going to have a name of another guy in the boarding house today that apparently is really good friends with Ryan Day and could be a trusted guy, maybe not on the line of a Chip Kelly type trust and friendship, but a good acquaintance from what I understand. And so I'll have a name in the boarding house today. Be sure to stay tuned for that.
They didn't just spoil it there, did they, Steve? They didn't just spoil your name there, did they, in the chat?
Who was it?
Hey, Fitz, it's Teddy. That's not your guy, is
Pat
it?
Fitzgerald. No.
I've heard that.
Not
what about Nick Saban? You think he'd come here as defensive coordinator? I kid.
Yeah,
Hey,
I asked about Phil Parker.
Right?
Yeah, I asked about Phil Parker at Iowa. He's 61 years old, which I don't think is that old necessarily.
Knowles, about the same age as Knowles, who's 59, 60.
Yeah. And, you got Larry Johnson. He's got to be, I don't know exactly age, but I would say late 60s, around there. So whatever. But I was told that he will probably retire when Kirk Ferentz retires. My initial response was, we know what you can do with 2 and 3 stars. What would you possibly be able to do with 4 and 5 stars? It's fun, competing for, to decide whether you're going to the bowl game in Tampa or Orlando every year. What would it be like to get into the playoff? That type of thing. So, you got to wonder at some point if somebody wants to step outside their comfort zone, he'd be the guy, my pick. But, we'll see what Ryan Day comes up with. And, again, no shortage of people are going to apply for that job.
That's right. And, the beat never sleeps, man. I'm telling you, it was like a few days after they win the national championship, Jim Knowles bolts for Penn State, less than a week after winning the title. But hey, keeps us busy.
Totally unfortunate situation, and that it came down the way it did, and the timing, it just kind of cast a pall over the celebration. It didn't need to be there. It's like, You know, I don't know. There had to be some hard feelings in there somewhere.
Yeah. But at
I
least
don't
he
know.
finished the job. I mean, I talked to him after the game. He was definitely happy. I talked to him right there on the field after the game. And I knew by then, and there was so much smoke. I knew there was at least a good chance he was not coming back. At first, I was like, that's BS. He's not going to go to Oklahoma. But then I was like, well, he also might go to Penn State. I'm like, oh, geez, there's a lot of smoke here. And I knew there was strife behind the scenes. But him and Ryan Day did a really good job publicly of having each other's back. Anytime they were asked about each other down there, they handled it with absolute class. I think they did. I think it's been a little overblown. I don't think they hated each other. I think that they just there was some strife. There was some strife, I think, but they won a national championship together. And as I was saying with Dan Rubin on Monday, like saying I don't care about all of that, Knowles leaving and some of the other stuff. Of course I care, but I'm like I don't care adjacent because I am just, as I say, I'm still in Basque mode. You know, you can be in beast mode. You know, if you're Marshawn Lynch, I'm in Basque mode, and I'm going to stay this way for a long freaking time. So I'm
Here in the palm of my hand are all of the
that's right. I mean,
all the bleeps I care to give about
right
any
here.
of that.
Right.
You're in the palm. See it right there.
I would give some Fs, but they just flew off the cliff. So now I have no Fs to give.
There you go.
I don't care. I really don't. I mean, I care, but like I care 100 million times more about the national championship.
Yeah.
Like that would have been brutal if they lost and then like all this stuff was going on, you know, but whatever, man. This team was special and
it showed me what it takes to win a national championship. It's an extraordinary feat, particularly now you got to beat 4 top 10 teams in a row to do it. Takes a special breed of cat in like 85 of them to pull that off. And you're not going to have that every year, unfortunately, Ohio State. Sorry to tell you, letting you down early. Probably not going to happen in 2025, but give it a shot. See what happens.
If you guys, this is not a paid advertisement, but if you guys want to know where I got this shirt, like my friend gave it to me for free that I work with at 97.1. But 97.1 The Fan, just get on their website. They have a fan store. You can buy the Scoop and Sawyer shirt. There you go. So get on 971thefan.com and you can buy the Scoop and Sawyer shirt. Thanks to Steve. Appreciate it, my man. Great stuff from Steve. Nice little deep dive on the defense. Talking a little defensive coordinator action. All right. Thanks to everybody that is listening to the show. Thanks to our live audience. Thanks to everybody that's listening to the podcast only version. We appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.